Episode 20, can you believe that? Well, I've been making these videos now for just over 2 months and 20 episodes in. Unreal. Hi there. Welcome to Scott Free Running. This video is all about mindset. More specifically, the power of the mind. But I guess we should take some time to also look at the weaknesses of the mind. Let's face it, any challenge we take on in life, whether it's running related or just general day-to-day life, we have to have some sort of motivation, some sort of self-directed energy to go ahead and attack whatever we're trying to do. I've been running regularly now for the last 7 or 8 months. By regularly, I mean almost every day, and for the most part, I never really struggle to motivate myself to lace up my shoes and to get out for a run. But I struggle with motivation when I am racing, and races are new to me. As I say, I'm fairly new to running, and I really struggle when I'm pushing hard. I struggle not to just be like, I don't really need to do this, and slowing down or just stopping altogether. Thankfully, they're two things that I've never done, but my mind, for some reason, just wants me to stop. It just wants me to give up and give in. And I know that's the last thing I want to do. I train weeks and I put in hours so that I'm fit for these races. And then when it comes to the day itself, I kind of just think, is it all worth it? In my own experience during my races, I can really reflect and say that I think I've got a bit of mindset training to do, because ultimately I do think that my performance in the day does suffer as a result of me convincing myself that I don't really need to go this hard, or it doesn't really matter, which are two things that are really true. But actually, it's really interesting how when I set off in a race, the first 5-10 minutes are great, and then 11 minutes in, 12 minutes, whatever it is, my mind goes out the window and I just think, you know what, that time I was going for, let's just settle for a finish. Let's just forget about that, which is all well and good in the grand scheme of things, but I want to excel as a runner and I've got some big challenges in mind. So I have started to do some research on mindsets and how we can use the power of our mind to propel us in our endeavours. Not just in running, I should add. I want the facets explored in this video to be able to be adapted into our everyday lives, just further challenges that we can hopefully overcome together. So let's get on with it. I'm going to start this video by talking about David Goggins. If you don't know about Goggins, please right now pause this video, open a new tab and just search Goggins, Goggins. He is just an absolute marvel of humanity. So Goggins is retired Navy SEAL. He's got an insane amount of records in ultra marathons and just stupidly long races. But Goggins, I think, is most well known for his book Can't Hurt Me, which I'd recommend you all buy and read. It's a fantastic read. But in this book, Goggins lines out all of the challenges that he's overcome in his own professional career as a serviceman, but also as a runner and a fitness enthusiast. And the one thing that stands out in this book is Goggins' mindset. And there's so many tools that David Goggins uses, but there's two that I'd like to include in this video. And the first one is the cookie jar. And the cookie jar is something that I'm using more and more these days on my hard tempo training sessions, and also when I'm doing my races. And I have noticed a difference. The cookie jar is all about finding yourself in a moment of weakness, recognizing where you are, and just putting your mind back to a time when you, in Goggins' word, were a badass. So if you're a runner that's got a bit of experience under your belt, and maybe you've got a race win under your belt, or you smashed a PB that you weren't expecting, if you're on a race and you're struggling a bit towards the end, usually in my case I've gone off too quick and I need a bit of motivation finishing. Goggins recommends that we look back to that PB that we smashed or that race that we won, and we just remind ourselves that we are a badass and that we are capable of doing this. Just taking that time to visualize that success from the past, maybe just to remind ourselves, has a great deal of power. I know in my case it's really working in these tempo sessions. The second part of the Goggins strategy is just to sort of shout the pain away, and this is something that I'm absolutely fascinated by, what's going on neurologically when this happens. But Goggins, he's got the clips of him in the gym, and a big part of his marine training was carrying boats. I think it's during Bud's week that him and his platoon have to carry boats in the seafront for hours during what they call Hell Week. And Goggins is just seen in the gym just taking on these insane human endeavours. Goggins is pushing weights and shouting, "Who's going to carry the boats? Who's going to carry the boats?" Almost as this chant, as this mantra to keep him going, and just again just to prove how much of a badass he is, as a reminder in a way. And I think this method is absolutely amazing, and I think chanting has a great deal of power in many ways. There's a rhythmic quality. It also encourages this breathing that's, you know, almost a grunt in a way. I think there's great power to that. But they're the two strategies from Goggins that I think are fascinating. I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think of David Goggins. So moving on to the next mindset practice. Similarly to David Goggins, who's going to carry the boats, I heard a tip on the running channel recently that was a smile per mile that's really stuck with me. At the moment I'm training for the Brighton Marathon. At the time of the recording this video, I think I'm about 25 days away, which is so exciting, and I'm really starting to implement this smile by mile tactic in, because I'm doing a lot of long runs at the moment, and as much as I do enjoy them, they do hurt, and they obviously go on for a long time. One of the presenters on the running channel, before this idea of making sure you crack a smile at least once per mile, and I think this is just a really nice way to just make sure that you are just taking a moment to bring your consciousness within your body, and in this case bring your awareness to your face, and just to crack a smile, just to remember you're doing this because you love it. I think there is something about the image of a runner just limping along, getting those last kilometres in on a long run, just cracking a smile. I think it makes for quite a spectacle in the East London parks I quite often frequenting. Now moving forward onto one of my favourite ultra distance runners, and that is Courtney Dauwalter. Again, a name that I absolutely urge you all to go and Google. Courtney is an absolute, just mind-blowing example of humanity. Her feats in the ultra marathon, ultra race, ultra endeavours, she's just an absolute wonder. And Courtney, in podcasts and interviews, has referred to as what she calls the pain cave. And the pain cave is this place that Courtney goes to in these ridiculously long events, these 100, 200 mile events, in which she enters this mental space where she visualizes herself with the pickaxing away at the mine, I guess, the cave of pain. And each time she gets deeper, she mentally toughens her mind. In turn, next time she enters that cave in the next race, or in the same race later on, she can remember that she's actually pickaxed further into that cave. Therefore, she's getting closer to the goal. She is, you know, grounding herself in that environment. And actually, it's quite a powerful example. Courtney said in interviews that in her running career, way at the start, she actually tried to avoid the pain cave. She would try to put off the pain cave for as long as she could, and she'd actually just accept the pain cave when it come and just try and cling on for dear life. Whereas now, she has said in interviews that she actually welcomes the pain cave and she looks forward to it. So I think when it comes to mindset, there really is a plethora of I guess, tools that we can pick out from, whether you're going for David Goggins' cookie jar or you're visualizing Courtney's pain cave. I think we can decipher that there is strategy to be put into place during challenging times. And I think just to simplify this measure, to bring up this idea of visualization is really important. Now, in Michael Crawley's book, which I'm reading at the moment, I mentioned it in a past video, I'm loving it. It's called Out of Thin Air, and documents Michael's time staying with a group of Ethiopian runners and training at altitude. It's a fascinating read. In this book, Michael is told about a running technique of visualization. Over and over he's reminded of this, and that is just to keep your eyes on the heels of the runner in front. So when they're out on their training sessions in groups or in races, sticking to the pacemakers, just to keep an eye on the heels of the runner in front. I think that this tactic is actually almost a mindfulness exercise, directing so much of your attention almost in a meditative way to something sort of beyond the body, beyond the experience. And in many ways I use my arms to do this when I'm running and in races. As I say, I've got a lot of work to do. I don't think that my mind is as tough as it needs to be for my upcoming races. I've got that marathon soon, so I'm trying all of these exercises in my runs. But I like to fight, I like to focus on my arms when I'm running. You know, really, the faster your arms move, the faster your legs will move. So if you can bring your attention to your arms and you can swing those bad boys in good form, it's really going to make you go quicker. Whether you're looking at the heels of the person in front or swinging your arms or focusing on your breathing, these are all strategies that are going to help you to go into this slightly meditative state as you're running, just to make sure that you're focused and not dwelling on the pain that's going to come in a few miles, or maybe the pain that you've got right now. Just taking your attention elsewhere or into that thing is going to really help. And as a bonus mental practice, I'd like to include a strategy that I've heard in sort of all facets of the running and I guess sporting community, from triathletes like the Iron Cowboy to just insane all-rounders like Rich Roll, who emphasize the importance of showing up. It's really the easiest tool that's in our toolkit, and that is quite simply getting ourselves to the start line or lacing up our shoes and starting off on our jog. It's just about getting started. I spoke about this in the first video on this channel, about how it's so much easier to keep ourselves motivated when we're 2 minutes into something than 2 minutes before we started that thing. No one likes the idea of sitting down to do something that's going to be a bit of a challenge, that isn't going to give us that immediate reward. It's all about forgetting the reward and just getting into it, just biting in to the challenge and just to start off, because as the Iron Cowboy says so regularly, James Lawrence, the GOAT of Ironman triathlon, 100 Ironmans completed in 100 days, 101 I should say. James Lawrence says that showing up is so important because most people just don't. Most people talk themselves out of taking part in the race for whatever reason. Most people just accept failure before they even started. But if you show up, that's kind of 80% of the work already done. It's just the next 20%, it's just consistency and patience that you've got to follow up with. So they are my favourite mental practices for not only embracing that power of the mind, but also to make sure that we don't fall into those mental traps of wanting to give up or losing sight of why we're doing all of this. So if you've got any strategies or any visualization exercises that you take into your running or into your sporting challenges, do leave them down below in the comments. But as always guys, I hope that this video finds you all with gratitude, and hope it's brought some peace to your life. Till the next one. Also, completely forgot to mention it, but David Goggins has this saying that's just absolutely killer. That is, when you've given it all and your body's telling you to give up, the reality is you've only spent about 40% of your potential, and that actually you've still got 60% buried in the banks of the mind, of the body, to put into practice. So remember that when you feel like giving up, you've only spent 40% of your energy and there's so much left to give. Boy oh boy, I hope I remember this in the marathon in a few weeks' time. See you guys.